I'm Todd Sale, and I lead end-to-end operations and customer experience for a Corpay, a payments company. The way I think of what Zingtree does is Zingtree simply takes complex business process and puts it in real time on the screen for our associates that are trying to manage these complex use cases. And what really makes Zingtree special is that you can do things like automate steps and grab intense data, super great insights, because you have all this depth inside those business processes. And then now with AI, I think, I'm still trying to grasp all the possibilities, but we know that automation will just accelerate. And I think we'll be able to make super better decisions, outcomes, et cetera, with AI.
When you think about customer complexity today, what's changed in the last few years?
Yeah, as we think about customer complexity, just with the advent and just density of AI everywhere, our expectations are so high. In the past, we used to talk about edge cases and we would say, oh, it's an edge case. You just kind of let it go. Well, now the expectation is, well, hold on. You should have known about those edge cases and you should have addressed those edge cases proactively. So I think that at least where is probably the biggest difference is expectation.
You've worked with Zingtree for a couple of years now. How has the relationship evolved?
Yeah, so we have been with Zingtree now for 2 or 3 years. And at first I was probably the least interested in this technology. I thought of it as just another complex desktop tool. I was trying to decomplex our environment. And quite frankly, I just paused and took it in. And so what we've done over the last few years is we've taken business process that used to sit in someone's head. We used to use the word institutional knowledge and subject matter expertise, and I would have fear about big change in operations because it's so hard to get change management through the org. Well, now we do it all with this business process. We do it with Zingtree. We will say, is there a tree for that? Or something will come up and we'll decide, hey, we could solve this use case. It's super complicated. It's very, do this, do that. Under this very special condition, we can solve it. And now my team goes, well, we'll just build a tree, or we'll edit a tree, or we'll modify the tree. And it's like there's no anxiety about those business process changes. And we go to market way fast. Now, the downside to that is the expectations have gone up. In the past, when you had a business process change, you'd be like, okay, give me 90 days. Now it's like, give me a week. And we're just like, ooh, that's a lot on our associates. So we are, very deep and wide with business process now being documented in front of the associate in real time. And that's probably the biggest transformation.
So you've been laying the groundwork for AI actions. What made this the right time to invest in AI automation?
Yeah, so the whole timing of AI is fascinating. You would have talked to me a year ago, everybody was super interested. I couldn't really find anyone that had a use case with an ROI that they were super proud to go show everybody, but we all knew it was coming. And specifically in our org, it was very much appetite, but a little bit of uncertainty of where to start and what use case. Well, what's happened is something happened over the summer and some light bulbs went off with Zingtree. And we realized that, yes, the natural language communication and all the things that we think of as sort of traditional, call it customer-facing chat or customer-facing communication, all those things are certainly on the list. But I couldn't get super excited because our environment's so complex. It's not like I have 10,000 people doing a similar thing and you can build great automation. Instead, we have smaller teams doing hyper-complex, high-value transactions. And we stepped back and said, let's look at the business process. Let's look at where we fail. Let's look at the areas where our associates are uninformed and they do the best they can, but we just can't inform them enough in the moment. And it sort of sparked an idea. It sparked an idea of taking all this super dense data, but then bringing it back and displaying it in such a way that an associate can consume it under the exact right sort of lens for that use case. Now, I don't know what we call it exactly. historically, we've been playing around with some different names, but we've just taken a different approach to say, let's bring data in at the right time, in the right context, in the right texture. So when it's time to make that business decision, or it's time to have a tough conversation, maybe it's a tough conversation, we are super informed, and we know that we have the best chance at the best outcome. We might not get that outcome, but we know we at least had that opportunity.
There's a lot of AI noise or noise in the AI space right now. What should CS leaders like yourself focus on when it comes to practical impact? And how does this relate to the AI ecosystem at Corpay?
Yeah, so there is a lot of noise in the AI world right now, and everybody, at least at Corpay, it's really about standing stuff up and getting value and doing a ton of pressure testing and proof points, and is it going to work, and do we have hallucinations, and is it secure? All the things that everybody else is working on. So what the way I see that is, with the noise, you really just got to find some lanes and go run deep on those lanes, especially lanes that have value. So for us, look, we'll definitely have all of the natural language communication. We'll have, customer facing options for a conversation with, frankly, technology. But we're starting in areas where, frankly, there's greater value. And those areas are around data, around presenting data in a textual way that has value, around making better decisions and having better outcomes. And I haven't quite figured it out yet, but I'm pretty sure there's a fraud component to this that we haven't quite put our finger on, where using AI to maybe suss out some risky things that maybe weren't necessarily obvious. So back to, like, how do you get out of the noise? Well, the noise is there. But in my opinion, you find a very valuable lane and you go deep and wide.
So, how does Zingtree's philosophy around guardrails, logic, and control align with how your team wants to deploy AI automation?
So Zingtree's philosophy is that you control the business process and the way it's presented in front of your associate in real time, or in front of your external user. For us, we present it in front of suppliers and vendors. We also will present it in front of customers. But the philosophy that Zingtree has, where you can build these guardrails, really fits in great for us, because in the past, those guardrails were mostly inside of someone's head. Now, where it gets really interesting with AI is Zingtree has offered to us that we could control the technology stack behind it. So we can use our enterprise license of OpenAI. We could use our prompts that are super specific to our business application. And then, of course, we're only in our data, and we can really, put a wall around our data and even prevent the AI from going outside that wall to avoid hallucinations or just weird stuff. So for us, it fits really well. That the Zingtree's philosophy there is a perfect match.
When you first deployed Zingtree's AI, what was the biggest manual or inconsistent process you were hoping to automate?
Yeah, so when we first deployed Zingtree's AI, we were really focused around how do we prevent a user from having to do basically a full-on analysis. Go pull data from 2 or 3 different places, put it in a spreadsheet, run a pivot table, do an analysis to just figure out, like, what's the landscape of this situation. We are highly transactional focused. We're a payments company. But the reality is the value comes in looking beyond the transaction, looking at all the transactions that might relate to either that client or that supplier. So when you can look at that broader landscape, you can make a far better, more informed decision. So really just bringing that to the desktop without a human, without our great people having to do all this manual work. That's really been the number one thing.
So, kind of in that vein, what metric do you expect will most improve with launching AI actions and using AI agents?
So the metrics that will improve using AI actions are the obvious ones: the handle time, the speed to resolution. I think the associates just happiness, right? Because they'll be able to get the answer quickly, and it'll be a very appropriate answer that's informed. So those are the obvious ones, but really where we're excited is we think there's a way to get better outcomes from a business perspective. Less risk, better, call it, revenue or value to our customers, right? And when you put together less risk and better value to our customers, those other things, I mean, they're important. Honestly, if I'm meeting with executives and I'm sharing the story, we'll talk about those other things, but the real excitement's going to be around the value proposition and around creating value for the company and customers.
Where do you see the next opportunity to expand AI at Corpay? Is it more agent assist, customer self-service?
Yeah. So where we think the future of AI in our organization is yes, definitely going broader with things like agent assist, putting these tools in front of our customers in more textual ways and more places. But actually, I think where the biggest interesting value is expanding it across areas of our company that aren't really using it. So think about this. So sales doesn't really have the servicing screens. They don't have the servicing tools. They purposefully focus on selling and building relationships and let service go kind of deal with the nitty gritty. Well, I think there's an opportunity to put this in front of sales and just help them to be informed. Maybe I'm not looking for sales to go serve customers and problems, but there's an application here for sales, and we just haven't quite put our finger on it yet. We're focused on all the other things first, but that's coming.
How do you envision using Zingtree logic layer in conjunction with LLMs or generative AI? And where do you not want AI making decisions?
Yeah. So where we envision using Zingtree's logic layer with AI is around it's really use case specific. So the way I think of it is you'll have a use case with a business process. I want to challenge the team on every step. Is this the most informed step? Is there something that could be missing? Did we decide purposefully to not overcomplicate the use case because you can't address every edge case? But the reality is the edge cases are what really hurt us, right? So we think that using AI to maybe suss out those edge cases, and because you have the logic layer, you can control it. You keep it simple for the associate in real time or the customer if it's customer facing. So that's where I think that fits. And then areas where where I'm a little concerned about using AI. Yeah, quite frankly, anytime you put AI in front of an external user is very worrisome. And I think I'm probably sound like beating a drum here of use case specific, but I think it really depends on what is the use case. If there's a very low risk, maybe you to take a chance with AI. Or if it's a kind of use case that you don't have those guardrails, don't have those business rule layers, then you might, take a chance. But if it's something that's highly risky, but you have really good guardrails, well, then, maybe you do it. So I would say, yeah, I'm not quite there on putting AI deep and wide in front of our external users, but I love it for our internal users. We have highly skilled, knowledgeable people, and just informing them with greater depth is tremendous